Back in the book segment tonight, Water's World. On August 26, Montana Judge Todd Baugh sentenced 54-year-old Stacey Rambold to just 30 days in prison for raping a 14-year-old girl. Tragically, that girl, Charisse Morales, committed suicide 2 years after the statutory rape charge. Her mother saying the crime contributed to the suicide. After Judge Baugh rendered the sentence, many Montanans were outraged, and Charisse's mother screamed obscenities in the courtroom. The state then moved against Baugh, and the sentence may be changed. Asked to explain his leniency, Judge Baugh said, quote, "The 14-year-old was as much in control of the situation as her defendant, the adult rapist." Outrageous doesn't even come close. Judge Baugh has been running from the press, but Jesse Waters finally caught up with him.
Judge G. Todd Baugh sentenced a former senior high teacher.
Stacey Rambold will now serve 30 days for raping a 14-year-old student. The student later committed suicide.
For that sentencing is pretty ridiculous.
Well, obviously on its face it looks like a terrible decision. When he says she was older than a 14-year-old, it makes absolutely no sense.
He suggested in court a 14-year-old student raped by senior high school teacher Stacey Rambold held at least some responsibility for the rape.
Prosecutors asked for 10 years hard time.
Seems like a life sentence, I agree. And certainly the judge made some comments that were improper, which he admitted.
What I said was demeaning to all women. I owe all of our fellow citizens an apology.
There's something wrong, and I think that the community needs to step up.
I talked to him when I put him in a housing unit. He doesn't think it's fair. He doesn't like the notoriety in the paper like anybody else.
I was a 14-year-old that was raped myself. The emotion is overwhelming because it just proves how little value we have on our little girls.
It's all right. Isn't the judge supposed to be trying to protect the public?
Should be, yeah.
So he's sending a message to the young girls that it might be their fault.
That's right, that you attract these kind of people to you.
Well, community members now calling for a protest and a local judge to resign.
Quite honestly, I think the guy's pretty incompetent.
This is one bad decision he's made over a long period of time. So I tend to believe that I think he can finish out his term, but re-election, that's a pretty tall order.
What would you expect the sentence to be for taking advantage of a 14-year-old girl?
Oh my gosh, she should be in prison for a long time.
15, 20 years.
Next 10, 15 years, teach him a lesson.
Your daughter, what was she like?
Energetic, artistic, very artistic. She used to write poetry, and she was just fabulous.
This guy violated your daughter and now could be out in just a few weeks from jail. How are you processing that?
I'm going to let karma handle that because I don't believe he'll be safe.
Hey, Judge. Good morning. Jesse Waters of Fox News. How are you doing? You had a guy who repeatedly raped a 14-year-old girl, and you gave him just 30 days in jail? Can you explain that, please?
15 years suspended.
But 30 days in jail, you think that's an appropriate sentence, Judge? What if that had been your daughter? What if that had been your daughter? Judge.
Excuse me.
Judge, you answer the question. You seem like you have a lot of faith.
Yeah, in people, yeah, in God, definitely. I'm still standing, so, got to be doing something right.
Okay. Here's Waters. Now, let's go over this thing. There is a chance that this guy is going to get a stiffer sentence. The state is going to go back and impose it, right?
Yes. It's an illegal sentence under Montana state law. It's a 2-year mandatory minimum for statutory rape
on a
14-year-old.
Right. Not only did he give an outrageous sentence, but it was illegal.
It was an illegal sentence, so he tried to have a do-over and tried to change the sentence, but the Montana Supreme Court stepped in and said, no, this is going to have to go through the natural appeals process. So the state is appealing, which could take almost a year and a half. Meanwhile, the perp could be out in October.
Well, wait a minute, though. Why do they want to just fast track it, the Montana Supreme Court?
They said it could take between 6 months and a year and a half for it finally to go through the judicial process of appeal.
When he gets out of jail in October, if he does, Does he have to stay at home? You know, what?
No, there's no monitoring of
Nothing.
him. He has to go through sex offender treatment. And actually what happened, he failed and was kicked out of the last sex offender treatment he had. He had contact with minors. Okay.
Before this statutory rape?
He was going,
so this wasn't a first-time offense for this guy?
No, they deferred the prosecution because when she committed...
So he had done it before?
No. When they deferred prosecution, so when she committed suicide, they had no witness to testify against him. So the state said, we're going to give 3-year sex offender treatment, and he failed out of it. That's why the state came back and said, no, we
so
want
it was all
a 10-year
about
hard
this
time.
case.
Exactly.
And the girl committed suicide. Did she leave a note? Did she say anything on the suicide
She did
note?
not leave a note, but what we hear is she was being tortured by her peers and verbally abused because of this whole case going public.
Because of this?
Yeah, because of the statutory rape.
All right. Waters, thank you very much.